Hey there everyone, welcome to the pre-algebra recap video where we are reviewing adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing with integers. So this video should go fairly quick because it is just a review of basically adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. If you had 4 plus -7, what would you say? Well, I hope you'd say -3. Now, what's the shortcut to that? Well, we can remember, well, there's actually two ways. First of all, we could remember that, hey, 4 minus 7, okay, or I'm sorry, 4 plus -7, plus a negative is really like saying minus a positive. So we have 4 minus that now positive 7, okay, so you could do that. Or, if you really wanted to, so I'll rewrite the original problem, 4 plus -7. Okay, would we agree that this is an addition problem? I hope so. Now you are adding a negative, but you're still adding, so it is an addition problem. And remember that 2 plus 3 is the same as 3 plus 2. So what I could do, I could rearrange this and say -7 plus 4. Okay, if that helps you at all, visually, great. You could use that because sometimes what I like to do is visualize the number line and say, well, there's -7, and I'm adding 4, so I'm going to go this way towards 0, which is over there somewhere. And how many places am I going to go this way? Well, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that'd be -6, -5, -4, negative. Boom, right there, -3. So either way you want to do it, you can. All right, so -47 minus 12. Okay, so what we have here is a negative minus a positive. Okay, so negative minus a positive, -47 minus a 12. So when you have a negative minus a positive, what you can actually do is pretend that they're both positive for a second. So this is 47 now, and then the 12. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to add those. Now what we've really done here, going from -47 to 47, we've actually found the absolute value of -47, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. In fact, I think we talked about it last year a bit. So absolute value is just the distance that any number is from 0, and it's always positive. So what's the absolute value of -47? 47. What's the absolute value of 12? It's 12. Okay, so we're just going to add them quick. So it'd be 9 and 5, so it'd be 59. But let's think about it. We're starting at -47, and we're subtracting 12. So we're going this way. -47. So if we're going this way, 12 times and stopping there after 12, jumps, whatever that number is that going to be negative or positive? Well, it's definitely going to be negative. So our answer is actually -59. So if that confuses you, try this one. -13 minus 24. Give that a shot. Again, it's a negative minus a positive, so pause the video, try that. All right, so when you have a negative number minus a positive number, remember, just going to take the absolute values of those numbers or just pretend they're positive and then add them. Well, that'd be 7 and 3, and then you do what at the end? Tack on a negative sign, and you're done. All right, so let's try this one. 28 minus 42. Well, if I sketched a number line, 28, let's say that's 0. Well, if I'm starting at 20, I'm subtracting 42. That means I'm going to go way beyond 0, right? So my answer is definitely going to be negative, okay? But the question is, how do I figure this out? Well, what I like to do is when you have a positive minus a positive, okay, did you know that you can do this? 42, 28, okay, those came from right there, except that this is a well, it's the absolute value of 42 is 42, absolute value of 28 is 28. But now we're going to subtract them. Okay, so that's a 3, it becomes 12, so that's 4. And then, okay, so 14. All right. Now, here's the thing. We know, though, that we're taking a positive number that is smaller than the number it's being subtracted from it. Okay, so we have 28 minus 42. Okay, so like we said, we definitely know we're going to be here in the negative. So what's the sign of our answer? Well, it's actually going to be negative, right? And the entire answer is -14. Okay, so why don't you try this one? Give this a shot. Yeah, pause the video, try that one, see how you do. Okay, so we have a positive minus a positive. And so, if it was like 5 minus 4, well, that's a positive minus a positive, and I wouldn't ever want to, do what we did up here and, give it a negative sign, and subtract them and give it a negative. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask ourselves, first of all, what's the sign of our answer going to be? Well, we start at 47. Here's 0. And we're going to subtract 109. So if I go this way 47 times, I'd be at 0. But I still need to go more. Okay, so I'm going to land over here somewhere. And I don't know what that number is quite yet, but I definitely know it's going to be negative. Okay, so when you have a positive number minus another positive number, but the second number's absolute value is bigger than this one, otherwise known as, the absolute value of 47. How far away is 47 from 0 on a number line? It's 47. How far away is 109 from 0? Well, it's 109 spots. So his absolute value is bigger. If you have a number minus another number and the second number's absolute value is bigger, here's what you can do. Take that second number and subtract from it the first number. Okay, so it'll be 2 and then 6, so 62. But we said already, we know our answer is going to have a negative sign, right? And it's actually going to be negative 62. So if we started here at 47 and we literally counted 109 spaces to the left on a number line, we would end up right there, and that spot would be negative 62. All right, so let's do a negative plus a positive. Negative 9 plus 2. Well, if we had a number line out, we would say, well, there's negative 9, there's 0. I'm adding 2, so that means I'm going to jump 2 spaces to the right, which would put me there. We, of course, know that's negative 7, okay? But what if we're dealing with larger numbers? Well, let's see. The method would actually be, if you have a negative and you're adding to it a positive, but the first number's absolute value is bigger than the second, right? So the absolute value of negative 9 is 9. Absolute value of 2 is 2. So this one is bigger. What you can actually do is take the absolute value of the first number, so it's a 9. Subtract from it the absolute value of the second number, which is 2. 9 minus 2 is 7. But we said from our little number line example, we definitely know the sign is going to be negative, right? I'm starting at negative 9. If the answer was going to be positive, I'd have to add to it at least 10, right? Or at least 9.1 or something. Anyway, so we said, the answer is going to be negative 7. So we definitely know it's negative, and it is negative 7. So you might be saying, well, I don't know if this method always works. Well, let's try this one. Do another negative plus a positive. So we'll do negative 471 plus 208. Okay, so I want you to try this method, and then we'll see how you do. All right, so negative 471 plus 208. This first number's absolute value is bigger than this one. So I definitely know my answer is going to still be negative, right? Because I'm starting at negative 471. If that's 0, I'm adding 208, so that's only really going to put me about halfway-ish, not quite, right? So the answer is definitely going to be negative. So let's take the absolute value of negative 471, which is positive 471. Remember, absolute value is always positive. And we'll subtract from it the 208, okay? Well, let's see, 263, okay? Now we said, though, what? Sign's definitely going to be negative, right? So negative 263. And if you want, go ahead and check your calculator, right? So I got mine right here. I'll do negative 471 plus 208. Boom, equals negative 263. All right, so some good things to remember is, well, the first one would be if we had 4 minus negative 20. The question is, what does minus and negative mean? Well, I see minus a negative. I like to think of those two little signs combine, right? And this one kind of comes over and crosses through that one and becomes a plus sign. So 4 minus negative 20 is like saying 4 plus 20, which is 24. All right, and then we talked about this a little bit earlier, but if I had, negative 7 minus, we'll say plus negative 10. Well, what does plus a negative mean when those two are right next to each other like that? Well, this really means negative 7, plus a negative means minus 10. And negative 7 minus 10, well, let's see, how can we solve that? Well, let's see. It's a negative number minus a positive. Oh, I know. Well, It's definitely going to have a sign that's negative, right? Because I'm starting at -7. I'm subtracting 10, so I'm going this way 10 times. If I add the two absolute values of those numbers, I get 17, but I slap on a negative sign, and our answer is -17. All right, so let's just quick get into multiplication and division. And here's something that Lauren Hewitt showed me last year. Okay, so I set up tic-tac-toe, and I'm going to do P, P, and P. Okay, and the letter P stands for positive. And I'm going to fill all the other empty spaces in with N, which is going to stand for negative. And what this helps us do is know the sign of our answer, okay, to a multiplication. This is for multiplication, M-U-L-T, and division only, though, okay? So if I have a, let's say, -4 times -5, okay? Well, let's see. A negative times a negative is always a positive, and the tic-tac-toe helps us remember that because I'm going to find two negative numbers that are in a row, and I'm going to start on the outside, okay, and then I'm going to find two negatives that are in a row, and then the third number in that row will tell me what the answer is going to be. So here I see a negative and a negative. Well, negative times or negative divided by a negative is always going to equal positive. You could go this way too, starting here. Negative times a negative or negative divided by a negative is always a positive. And in fact, this would be positive 20. So why don't you take a second? I want you to try this one. Give that a shot. All right, so what does that mean? Well, it means 42 times 27. Remember with the parentheses right there, that means multiply. So 42 and 27. Okay, so 14, 28, 29, okay, 0, 4, 8, add them up, 4, 13, 11, 1,134. Now, is it positive or negative? Well, it's a positive times a positive, so it's just going to stay a positive. All right, so the last one we'll do is this one. So why don't you take a sec, pause the video, try it, and see how you do. So 42 divided by -7. Well, a positive divided by a negative always gets you a negative. So what's 42 divided by 7? Well, it's 6, except we know a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So now we're doing -6 times -2. So -6 times -2. Well, a negative times a negative is always a positive. So what's 6 times 2? It's 12, and that's your answer. So that's all I have for you guys. As you see, we spent most of the time on adding and subtracting because negatives, when it comes to adding and subtracting, super complicates things. At least way more than it does for multiplication and division. Okay, multiplication and division is really easy. Negative times negative is positive. Negative times positive is a negative. Positive is always a positive. It's as simple as that. But adding and subtracting makes it more complex, but you guys are totally capable of handling it. You're awesome. Thanks for sticking with me during this video. I look forward to seeing you guys in class.